care and growth model is based on the axiomatic principle that in any relationship of power, wherever you have hierarchy, the job of the boss, of the person with the power, the person with the authority, is to care for and grow the person who is subordinate to them in that hierarchy. When one looks at this issue of growth specifically, or empowerment, what becomes apparent is that people don't grow absolutely. People grow by increments. In other words, if you're going to grow somebody, you need to incrementally suspend the control that is exercised over them. There's a logic that's at issue, and we call this logic the 5 steps to empowerment. The first step says identify the next step. What authority are you wanting to entrust this person with now? What's the next step forward for this person? Once you've identified what that step is, you then train the person to take that step, both why and how. When you're training the person how to do what's required of him, this is pretty straightforward. I mean, it literally is just indicating what the standard is and technically how one acts according to that standard. But the why is, in a sense, more important, because the why creates the condition where the person actually owns the thing that they're being entrusted with. That why always has to relate back to the idea of the benevolent intent of the task. How do we make the world a better place by doing what we do? The next step now is to test their ability. And one tests their ability in the first instance. You test the how by, in a sense, giving them a dry run of the job that's required of them and to see whether they can do it. The why, the only way to test the why is actually by way of conversation. You need to hear back from the person basically the same that you explained to them when you explained to them how important it was to do the job. Once you are satisfied that the person understands what's required of them, they understand how to do it and why they should do it, the next thing then is to hand over whatever means are associated with the decision. And those means could be, they clearly would be authority, but it might be other resources, it might be a specific tool, it could be anything within the means category. After you've handed the means over, one has to understand that the person is now accountable, and you then have to hold the person accountable. And this suggests that of these 5 steps, the most important step of the 5 steps is actually the last. If you aren't going to hold the person accountable, don't even start with step number 1. The point about this 5 steps to empowerment is in order to develop an accountable person at the end of the process, a person who owns the problem.